The live scene at Daytona International Speedway with cars on the racetrack for the Subway Firecracker 250. Tonight's NASCAR Nationwide Series race delayed about 90 minutes by a little Florida summer shower that came storming through here earlier. But they're finishing up the track drying. The cars are on the track, and we're getting ready to go to green shortly. When we get ready to go to checkered later on in the night, you can probably figure out our ESPN in-race reporter being one of the drivers in the hunt for the win, because Regan Smith's record on the restrictor plate tracks, Daytona and Talladega, is pretty stellar. Look at those numbers. 2 wins and a third, no worse than 8th in the last couple of years, and he's got a good car for tonight's race, lining up in 8th position tonight. Why don't we talk to him?
Yeah, let's talk to the man that seems to always find his way to the front. Hey, Regan, Dale Jarrett, ESPN, you have a copy?
I got you, DJ. How's it going?
Oh, it's great, man. I know that you're excited to be here, and we have a lot of mailbag questions, and we chose one from Mark in New City, New York. And he asked, you've had great success of late on restrictor plate tracks, including wins at both Talladega and Daytona. What is it about this type of racing that brings out the best in you?
Well, I just enjoy the plate races. I think it's it's a little bit different form of what we do every week. So, I like coming to these tracks, and I'm fortunate I'm always in fast race cars. Junior Motorsports gives me fast race cars here, and I got another goodie Chevy tonight.
Hey, Regan, a lot of times, a lot of other racetracks, you can think about points whenever your car is maybe not the best, so you'll try to make a 5th or a 10th place finish out of a not so good day. That's not the case here. You don't even think about the points here tonight. You just go race right and let it the points fall where they may.
Yeah, you got to. Just try and put yourself in the best situation to get up front. It seems like if you're up front, you avoid the wrecks, and you can have the best day possible, and that's all you worry about here. It is a nationwide insurance dash for cash night too, the qualifiers, so you're going to have all the regulars thinking about that. We want to go to Loudon and be a part of that, but outside of that, let's just win the thing.
Hey, how about the track conditions? We had a lot of rain put down, and I think you were probably anticipating track temps to be higher than what they are. Is that going to change the handling of your race car any?
Well, it should. I think it's going to actually be more similar to February here tonight than what it was in practice yesterday. You can catch a bunch of bump draft in practice, and it you got a little bit more free than what you would in February. I don't think that's going to be the case. We've had the rain to clean the track off and to cool it off. Cloud cover for quite some time. It looks good out here right now. I don't see too many areas they got to work on.
Regan, you've been so successful at this, and I know a lot of drivers and teammates try to make some plans along the way. Kind of what is your strategy and your mental process as you get down to the later laps? Do you know who you want to work with then? And obviously that can change, though, with different cars around you.
Yeah, I think it's a constant evolution. I've been to places before, we've made a plan and said this is how we're going to do it. And it seems like it just doesn't always work out that way. So you have to kind of fend for yourself. But when you get down to the last, 10, 15 laps, if you see a teammate, you're conscious of that, and you go with the teammate. If not, you look for the fastest car you can find and the best drafter you can find.
Well, you'll probably get some people locking onto your bumper then, because you're one of the best in this field. Hey, thanks for talking with us. We'll look forward to talking with you later on. Have a great night.
Hey, thank you guys, and happy 4th of July to everybody. Excited about being out here tonight for this. It'll be a great night.
Regan Smith, the February Daytona winner, driving Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s number 7 car and starting in the 8th position tonight. Got a lot of great onboard camera views for you here at Daytona. Trevor Bain's got our Admiral Care on board tonight, starting on the front row. Regan Smith, the aforementioned, with our Chevy on board. Elliott Sadler, potential winner with a Goodyear on board. And Darrell Wallace Jr.'s got our Coca-Cola onboard camera. Joey Logano, former winner of this race, the Ford EcoBoost on board. Dylan Kwasniewski's got the Nationwide Insurance on board. Pole sitter Dakota Armstrong with the Fresh from Florida on board. And the always a favorite, Kyle Busch, has the Toyota on board tonight here at the World Center of Racing. The Subway Firecracker 250 at Daytona is powered by Coca-Cola. You can go to NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy for enhanced race action tonight from here at the beach. Not on the beach, but on the pit lane is Dr. Jerry Punch.
And let's begin with a little Daytona history. Folks, in his prime, Bill Elliott was one of the best restrictor plate racers in our sport, with 4 Cup Series victories here, including twice in the Daytona 500. Now, unfortunately, son Chase was not born until 4 years after Bill's last victory here, so Chase never really understood how good his dad was. But this past January, in a test, Bill climbed in a Nationwide car and went out and drove around the track with Chase. After the drafting lesson, Chase said, "Now I know why my dad and Dale Earnhardt, those guys were so good here, it's almost like they could see the air." Maybe tonight, it's Chase who sees the air and takes the Elliott name back to victory lane at Daytona. Here's Mike Mazzaro.
Well, Doc, back in May at Talladega, there was an Elliott in victory lane. Elliott Sadler, that is. Over his career, Elliott Sadler has had a love-hate relationship with restrictor plate racing. But in May, he replaced some of those ugly memories with a very good one as he held off a very hard and determined charge of traffic to pick up his first victory of the year. Tonight, in the first restrictor plate race since then, he is among the favorites, certainly, as he looks for his second win of the season and puts his championship lead on the line. Vince?
Well, we're looking for favorites tonight. Do not ignore the 98 of David Reagan. Yes, it's a small budget team. They don't run all the races, but he has a history of success at these restrictor plate racetracks. Go back to July right here at Daytona 2 years ago. Reagan won the Sprint Cup race here at Daytona. Also won Cup and Nationwide races at Talladega during his career. In fact, of his 4 wins in Cup and Nationwide, 3 of the 4 have come on plate tracks. So Reagan and this 98 team, they're going to be a contender tonight. They believe they can add to that total this evening, Alan.
So you'll forgive the announcers if they confuse Reagan with Regan from time to time during the night, because they'll both be up there racing for the win in this one. Both of them excellent in the drafting races here at Daytona. So, new pole sitter in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. First time ever for Dakota Armstrong to be on pole. Came out on top of a very chaotic and rain-shortened qualifying session earlier.
All right, Bud, the good news is, and the fortunate thing is, with all the rain and cloud cover and everything we've had, I think you can expect handling just like it was in February. Expect the whole night of 2-tire stops and whatever we need for fuel.
10-4. Also here, just a reminder, initial start is on the flag. Starter always taps the flag waiver right before he gives it, so I'll let you know when he does. When he does, we'll be able to take off.
Yeah, you can expect this track to have a little bit more grip in it than what they expected. And what he's referring to is it seems that every year that the early race in February has that grip, and you don't have it in July. But tonight, I believe, with this rain and cool, it's going to be nice.
And that signal you just saw from the starter stand, 1 lap to go before the green flag. A great sight after the heavy rain we had earlier. Heard from Dakota Armstrong starting on pole. Trevor Bayne starts to his outside.
Jason, I'll try to make this thing easy to spot for you and just keep it out front all night. But boys, just be ready for anything. His track position's huge here, so if it stops, just keep nailing them like you've been doing, and we'll keep this old 6-eye McCare up front all day.
Sound like a plan. Works. Trevor Bayne, the former Daytona 500 winner, on the front row for tonight's event. And as we get ready to go, reminder that our aerial coverage from the beach tonight is provided by Goodyear. Everything they learn making tires for the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what rolls into yours. Goodyear is the official tire of NASCAR. Look down on a 77-degree night here at Daytona International Speedway. Lake Lloyd shimmering in the lights in the infield, where the dirt came to make the banks at the east and west ends of the racetrack when this racetrack was built in 1958 and opened in 1959. The lights added for 1998. First night race held here in October of 98. The summer races postponed that year by some terrible wildfires that came through Central Florida at that time. And yes, from our vantage point in the control tower high above the start-finish line of the Speedway, you can see all up and down the shoreline of the Atlantic, the towers, the condo buildings, and so on, the fireworks sparkling here and there everywhere. And we'll see a lot of those flash bulbs in the grandstand begin to pop as well when they turn this field loose a moment from now.
Yes, good thing they got their fireworks out of the way. We're getting ready to have some here, I'm quite certain, throughout this next couple of hours.
Borrow Rusty Wallace's line from our conference call earlier in the week. He said, yep, fireworks in the air, fireworks on the track. Suspect we're about to have some. So 2.5 miles around the track. The 250-mile distance tonight means it's 100 laps around. It's a 2-pit stop race. And it really will come down to positioning yourself strategically and from behind the wheel for the finish.
Yeah, you want to have contact with the front, not necessarily be the leader on the last lap. We've seen the leader tend to go not win a lot of them, so you want to be up there where you can see the lead.
You've got a long time here tonight to figure out exactly where that is that you need to be. We've got a lot of inexperience at Daytona and plate racing up front. We'll see how that works out at the beginning.
Who takes home the trophy at the end of the night tonight from Daytona International Speedway? Pace cars off, field coming down to the start. Dakota Armstrong is in charge, coming to the green. Spain in the 6 is going to lead lap 1.
And that's not too surprising to see him up front. He's got a lot of experience at this style of racing. He's got his teammate now on his rear bumper and actually another one on his, so he's got himself in a pretty good position.
Yeah, he's one of those young men that picked up on this type of racing very early on. Obviously won that Daytona 500, but very limited experience at this type of racing, but it's something he's really adapted to well.
And when I talk about teammates, I'm talking about the Ford teammates. I know that Dakota Armstrong is in one of the Richard Petty cars, but it's a Ford. They've been working together quite well.
Inside lane, outside lane. Some drivers I talked to in the garage area yesterday expected the outside lane to be somewhat of a disadvantage until toward the end of the race.
Yeah, and I think especially as cool as it is with the grip that you have, I think that that's going to definitely be the case now as this cooled off quite a bit more. There's one thing that I always was a little bit leery of, those painted lines that you see down there on the bottom. They always held moisture a little bit more, so I'd be extremely careful about getting down there too far. Not really wanting to test that part of it. You don't want to be down there much, but you usually can get your left side tires on there, but I think that they don't catch on it and start dry out as much. It'll take a while for that.
As you can see, it really has developed down on that bottom lane. This outside lane is struggling now to try to gain any momentum.
That's Kyle Larson, 42. 3 wide there, red and white car. Losing some ground on the outside. Single file back through the first 9. Make it 10 cars. Then double file from there on back.
These cars have become so equal, and the horsepower, everything that you can do to the cars, and you have such a limited amount of things that you can do to separate yourself from others that now you're taking the shorter way around. We've had this discussion before about taking the longer way and how that can be, and you just can't get lined up to take that longer way around and make it work.
Yeah, one of those reasons is because of the grip level of the racetrack since it's been resurfaced. It really hasn't given up a lot of that grip. It may be a little, but it still has a lot. And when it has that kind of grip and you can just hold that throttle down and they've got restricted engines, then it does make it the short way around is the best way.
Joey Logano, 22, jumping up into that outside lane, heading that group of 3 there, trying to see if they can make a little ground toward the front. There's Logano, this week's driver of the Penske 22, a car that's been a factor in about every race this year and won one of them.
If there's a car that can make that outside work, it'll be that 22 and Joey Logano. He's got some help too.
Yeah, with another Ford pushing him, and they do seem to have a lot of power. Doug Yates and his organization certainly have been at the top in restrictor plate racing for a long time, a lot of years. And another reason that outside doesn't work, when they could really lock on to each other, they could make that outside work a lot better because the speed would be there, but they can't do that now, and so that limits them as to what they can do. They have to use a little bit more than just the bump drafting to make that work to try to move forward.
I tell you though, Joey Logano in that 22 is starting to make a little progress out there.
Ryan Reed 16 behind him. Then Johnny Sauter is in that blue 80 with the gold numbers on it. Joe Nemechek in the 97. So the exception of Reed, he's got some experienced drafters there behind him working with him. And pulled it up now to be equal to the 4th place car.
And they'll continue to be able to go if Ryan Reed in the 16 can stay closer to his bumper. What we saw him be able to catch up a little bit was because the cars on the inside started getting separated a little bit by some of these guys getting over closer to that inside lane and kind of dragging them backwards a little bit. If they can link back up, then that outside lane won't be as effective.
Landon Castle, 0-1, trying to get something going in that outside lane. Another one of those drivers that just seems to have a knack for the draft. Typical race, not Daytona or Talladega. How many laps to kind of feel settled in behind the wheel, and when do you get that way here in this kind of racing?
Well, at most racetracks, if your car is anywhere decent, you can settle in just a couple of laps. Here, about lap 101.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. When can you settle in with this kind of thing going on? It looks very tense behind the wheel.
White car on the outside there, 93. That's Mike Wallace. Someone else to keep an eye on for that surprise finisher tonight. Team that's normally a bit of an underdog technically and financially in this series, but the great equalizer that is the draft at Daytona.
Yeah, you know, you wonder why some of these lower funded teams are able to do what they can do at restricted weight racetracks. It really is just all about how you read the air. And if you have a driver that can do that, I mean, the air's free. It doesn't cost them anything to develop that. And Mike Wallace is one of the best at doing that.
See Elliott Sadler jump up there and his teammate Kyle Busch with him now. See if they can make that outside work a little bit. They saw the 22 being able to come and pull over in front of them.
Better be pretty sure of yourself when you make that lane change.
Yeah, you do that. You know, you're taking a real chance that guy's going to give you the benefit there and back out just a little bit. And Elliott Sadler did that, but then he got his teammate back on his bumper and making that high side work.
Well, he's got some horsepower behind him now. That outside lane powering to the front.
The Gibbs guys, 1, 2, 3. Sadler, new leader. Kyle Busch second. Darrell Wallace third. See Kyle Larson there, 3 wide in that outside lane. Let's show you why he lost some track position a moment ago. It's 42 right here.
It looked like some things may have been happening up in front of him. Slowed down. He tried to go to the middle. That gets pretty tight there. Oof. Made it work.
So Larson, after getting hung out 3 wide, a couple of laps before that, trying to regain some of the lost ground in the 42. So Trevor Bayne first to 4th after being overtaken by the Joe Gibbs Racing trio.
This is a great opportunity for a young driver that doesn't have a lot of experience like Darrell Wallace Jr. at this type of racing to be around some very good teammates that do have experience at winning at this type of racing and running well, to see how they handle this type of situation, the things that they do. He's got a fast race car, settled in here, doing a nice job.
Yeah, but one of the things you see with inexperienced drivers in the draft is they'll make one little mistake and then they'll get shuffled. You see them get shuffled out of the draft, and sometimes you see experienced drivers do it to them. You know, how does that? What kind of mistake do you have to make that gets you out of that situation you want to be in?
Yeah, well, the one thing that you have to do is make sure you stay tucked up to where you can stay on the bumper. Like, he needs to stay as close to Kyle Busch here without pushing. And what you have to do is figure out, okay, how much does that take? I'm going to stay wide open, but instead of lifting off the gas, applying just a little bit of brake in that situation if you're going to run up on the car, learning what to do in that thing. Because if you run up there, jump out of the gas, the throttle response back is so limited that those guys behind you get a run. Next thing you know, you're shuffled out and you're battling for 15th.
So 20-year-old Darrell Wallace Jr. in just his second NASCAR Nationwide Series start, his first in this series at Daytona, running in third behind his Joe Gibbs Racing teammates Kyle Busch and the leader Elliott Sadler. Racing here at Daytona tonight, the beginning of our motorsports weekend on the ESPN family of networks that includes the Summit Racing Equipment and HRA Nationals from Norwalk, Ohio. See qualifying runs tomorrow at 11 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2 and final elimination Sunday night at 9 Eastern here on ESPN2. And a quick reminder that next weekend, these Nationwide Series cars are on the New England and the New Hampshire Motor Speedway next Saturday afternoon, ESPN2, 3 Eastern time. We'll see who gets the trophy or the big lobster, as it were, in Victory Lane on the Magic Mile next Saturday.
Yeah, from 31 degrees of banking here down to, about, well, I think they say like...
Point 31.
Yeah.
A whole different challenge. 2 leaders in this race so far. Trevor Bayne from the outside of the front row led the first 8 laps, and now it's Elliott Sadler who's taken over in that 11 car, shuffling Bayne back to 4th. Here's the February winner, Regan Smith, trying to mount a Chevrolet charge in that outside lane with Brian Scott behind him, as well as his teammate, Chase Elliott.
Yeah, I think that Trevor Bayne up there in 4th spot is waiting on that lane to get to him, and he's going to pull out and possibly lead them back to the front.
You know, Regan talked about yesterday in the heat that his car getting bumped in the corners was almost more than a handful. Well, he's getting first-hand experience now as to how this 7 car is handling. But we can see that the 6 car there staying up in that top 4, just looking for a way to go there, Mike.
Absolutely. I got to give you guys a lot of credit. You certainly know what you're looking at, because just moments ago, Trevor Bayne came over the radio and told his guys, look, if it comes down to it, I can make a run on the outside. It just appears he's waiting for the right time to do that.
Got to pick your spot.
Yeah, it won't be long. If that 7 car can lead that group up just about another car length or 2, I think you're going to see Trevor Bayne jump up there with him.
I think it'd be a mistake, but he can jump up there right now. It's just what I'm seeing. This is where we talk about patience. This is where you have to show that patience. You see people that make a run up there, but nobody's run all the way except for those 3 cars that are in the front, and they hooked up together.
And they're locked on that bottom. And you know how they got there? On the outside. That's the only lead change we've seen. So you gotta go where they aren't. And I think they're going to have to figure out a way to make that outside lane work. Because I don't think those 3 Toyotas are going to give it up on the bottom.
No, they're not going to do that. I just don't see right now. I think that you're going to get some more laps in before maybe the handling starts taking just a little bit of an effect.
They're not going to give it up willingly.
That's right. They're going to force it to give it up.
Right along here with Dylan Kwasniewski, he's made a big move.
Lap car ahead of that outside lane. It's Jeffrey Earnhardt of the 4, whose car has a little bit of a sour note to my marginally trained ear.
I think you've got it right. He sounds like he's on 7 cylinders.
Casey Kane pops out 3 wide. That yellow 5 car. Joey Logano behind him.
They are just filing by Joey Logano 2 at a time.
So if the second lane isn't working in the draft, at least by that small sample size, the third lane definitely wasn't going anywhere.
It looks like you want to be in that third lane, and so I think Joey's going to rethink his strategy. See what he can do on the bottom.
It's all the way back to 25th place is Logano. All that long ago, he was trying to tow that outside lane up to, he was what, equal to 4th place, I think I said.
Now you see why it's so frustrating for some of these drivers. Joey Logano at any other racetrack, you would never see him back in that position. And there's nothing he can do right now but to regroup and try to move back forward. And it's just, there's just so much out of his control.
Well, this is where 2 things start happening. The only way to make this outside lane really work is to get committed to it, and the drivers on the outside have to really start working the quarter panels of those cars on the inside to try to slow them down, to get them separated some. And what that does is then starts creating some contact, and we get those cars on the inside kind of getting where they get stacked up, and then there starts to be contact, and then problems start happening.
Yeah, you see that side draft, but how close do you have to get to make that effective?
Yeah, that's the thing, is you've got to get over there. You can't just get 3 feet away from this guy. You've got to get over there for the air to really take effect and be on that quarter panel, on the door of that car to make it work. And I'm talking something a foot or less than that to really make it effective.
For people that maybe aren't regular viewers of NASCAR but are watching this tonight, because it's a pretty spectacular sight. Side drafting, there is science behind it, and when you hear these things about drivers seeing the air and so on, it's that science of the draft and how it affects the race cars that they're trying to use to their advantage.
But you talk about these cars make a wake. If you could see the air, which we can't, but if you could, you would see a big wake coming off the front of that car, and it goes out away from, look at Joey Logano. I think he's got a problem. He's been starting to show more and more sparks as this race is going on. I don't know if he has a tire going down slowly. Maybe one reason he's struggling, but that wake, if you can get your nose of that race car just inside of that wake, it'll actually help your car, and then you put your wake on his door, which causes a whole lot of drag on his car.
But you have to be careful where you're using this. I mean, in the corners, yeah, you can use it. Everybody's pretty stable right now. You have to be careful there. Obviously, down the straightaway is the best place to use it because everybody's going pretty straight. And as a driver that's on the inside and getting that side draft done to you, you feel like you look down at your gauges because you think your car is stopped at times because it'll pull you back that much. Trying to do it through the tri-oval, very risky. You're putting yourself in a very dangerous position there along with the driver that you're side drafting.
Already quickly through 50 miles here at Daytona, caution-free so far. After a 90-minute delay for rain, we're racing on the 4th of July at Daytona Beach, and Elliott Sadler is in command so far. Quarterfinals today, and the action continues tomorrow. First on ABC, Argentina and Belgium, starting at 11:30 Eastern Time, and then later on ESPN, the Netherlands and Costa Rica at 3:30 Eastern. It's the FIFA World Cup tomorrow on ABC and ESPN. Both games live on Watch ESPN. Germany through after a win over France today, and Brazil through after their win over Colombia, but at a great cost, losing one of their best players to a fractured vertebrae. Look forward to following that tomorrow here at Daytona. Caution-free so far. Through about a quarter of the distance in tonight's NASCAR Nationwide Series race, the Subway Firecracker 250. Trevor Bayne led the opening 7 laps. It's been Elliott Sadler ever since, with his Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Kyle Busch on his back bumper. And right behind Kyle, making his first nationwide start here at Daytona, their teammate Darrell Wallace Jr. A teachable moment in the draft, perhaps, from the 54 back to the 20.
Taught me and bumping me to always try to keep a half a car. If you keep a half a car, it's a good gap for speed, and you get air.
Yeah, 10-4. Yeah, just getting ready to holler on the other key. Starting to scare me a little bit. I'll pass it on.
Good information to get, especially as a young driver, as you're still learning exactly where is that exact spot that I need to be to stay in my place, plus to help my teammates that are right here in front of me. So that's great information to be getting.
You can see that gap between those 3 cars staying pretty equal and maintaining that all the way around the racetrack.
Yeah, so it looks like this is pretty easy. And probably of all those cars lined up, Elliott Sadler has it the easiest. He's holding it wide open running around out there. And the other drivers are having to work to keep that distance. You know, you can close it up, you can run up there, give him a bump, then he gets out too far, and that creates a lot of things happening. So you have to work hard. It's not like they're just sitting in there riding around.
And they have to watch that water temperature, because it will get up. If they get up right on the bumper for too long, even without touching, it can make that water temperature really rise quickly.
Leaders coming up on some lap traffic. Another moment of potential drama coming up here with green flag pit stops. Because when you're running in a big pack like this and cars start breaking out, trying to slow down and brake, crossing those yellow lines that you said sometimes are a little slick, misjudging a braking point can be a big deal and cause a big problem.
Yeah, we've seen it over the years that become a real issue as the drivers start to pit. You know, you're okay a lot of times feeling like wherever that is that you're running, but you don't want to lose touch with that front group. And as it gets time to pit, you want to try to make up as much time as you can. So we see different agendas there. And if somebody doesn't get the message that a group of cars or a driver or 2 in front of them is pitting, you have a real issue.
Let's get some updates on what some of these front runners may be thinking about their car's performance as we head to the first pit stops. We go up to speed with Nationwide Insurance. Here's Don.
Well, if you pick the Joe Gibbs trifecta at the beginning of the race, you're in pretty good shape right now. The top 3 cars, Joe Gibbs Racing. Elliott Sadler leading the field. He's the points leader and the race leader. And the confidence for this team is at an all-time high. Yes, this is the same car they used to win at Talladega. And Elliott said right now everything is perfectly fine. Behind him, Kyle Busch, the all-time winningest driver in Nationwide Series history. 66 wins, 54 have come for Joe Gibbs Racing. But folks, he has never won here at Daytona in a nationwide race for Joe Gibbs Racing. You heard him comment a moment ago about telling Bubba Wallace to stay back. He also wants Bubba to stop the bumping. Behind him is Bubba Wallace, the 22-year-old driver making only his 6th ever start, 2nd of the year. And Darrell Wallace Jr. told me prior to the race, he said, I thought I did okay at Talladega, but I got caught up in an accident because I made a mistake on pit road and got back in the pack. This is the last chance I had this year to prove that I belong, that I should be here, that the opportunity is mine, and right now he's proving he deserves the shot. Mike.
Trevor Bayne having a very good night so far. Rolled off second, led the first 7 laps. Has faded a little bit, but still maintains his spot inside the top 5. His team just told me he had to pull out of line just a little bit, trying to cool that car down, just so it's cool enough to make a charge coming up pretty soon. Doc?
Behind him, the 43 car pole sitter Dakota Armstrong, owned by Richard Petty. Folks, it was 30 years ago tonight that Richard Petty won his 200th race here at Daytona. And Richard Petty would love nothing better than to see his nationwide car go to victory lane. Right now, Dakota says it's all about just being patient and staying in line. The car's good. I just can't make a mistake. Mike.
You've got to wonder what might have happened in February if Chris Buescher actually made the field. He didn't. Today, though, well, he vindicated himself. He qualified 3rd and is making the most of it. Shouldn't be a surprise, though, in his last restrictor plate race back at Talladega, he finished 2nd. He's trying to make up for that and pick up just one more spot and go to victory lane today, Doc.
And back behind him, the young rookie, Dylan Kwasniewski from Las Vegas. The highlight of his year was back in February here, where he sat on the pole and finished 8th. Dylan said, I've made a lot of mistakes between February and now, but I'm learning to be more patient. I can't be overly aggressive. He said Chip Ganassi and the guys who want me to be a part of their future have said, You need to finish this race and learn. Dillon says right now, I'm going to be patient, I'm going to finish, and I'm going to learn every single lap. And speaking of the learning curve, how about behind him? Second-generation driver, Chase Elliott. We showed you at the top of the show. His dad, awesome Bill Elliott, won here 4 times in a Sprint Cup car. He showed Chase the art of drafting in a test here back in January. It was in February that Chase was too cautious. At Talladega, he was too aggressive. Chase said, hopefully I'll be somewhere in between today. And right now the car is running perfectly. Vince.
Running in the 9th spot is the 7 car of Regan Smith. They're about 7 or 8 laps away from their first pit stop if we stay under green. Right now, the only issue in regards to the handling of his car is it's tight in the nose, and particularly on exit. Regan says they need to adjust and make that change in their first pit stop. This car, by the way, the same one he won in February here at Daytona. And right behind him in the 62 is Brendan Gaughan. He's been hot lately. Won 2 weeks ago at Road America, 6th last week in Kentucky. He's been fishing for a little bit of ground. He started 14th. He's made up some spots, got up into this line, and says the car's pretty good. Right now, just track position is the key, Alan.
Vince, thanks. Penalties being handed out. This is the 2nd penalty for Josh Wise in the 40. A few moments ago, he and Landon Castle in the 0-1 had been separated from the pack a little bit. They were trying to make up some ground, and NASCAR has tagged them for violating the no pushing rule, as evidenced here.
Yeah, which basically states you can't lock bumpers. And obviously that's exactly what they're doing here. And I'm sure that they probably thought with where they were running, maybe it would not be noticed. But they did it for an extended period of time and received the penalty.
Yeah, and then Josh Wise, as he came off pit road, he went straight up on the racetrack, right in front of the leaders, basically, and up in the high lane off of turn 2. Landon Castle was down on the bottom. The leaders basically had to split them. And that's why he got another penalty. They have to stay on the bottom of the racetrack until the exit of turn 2.
In this race a year ago, the first yellow didn't come to lap 49. The green flag pit stop started on lap 34.
4,500, 1 light.
There you go. You see where we are, and you heard that radio transmission. So now, watch the scramble as these cars try and wave off the drivers behind them, get slowed down to the pit road speed limit, and so on off turn 4.
I really like what Elliott Sadler did there, of really getting out of the way in case anything was going to happen.
Trevor Bayne hits first, Mike.
And he's saying he's been pretty good on entry, but a little bit snug in turn 4, especially when he's trying to push. They'll take a full load, it appears, of Sunoco race fuel, 2 cans, a 4-tire change on the 6 as they complete their service here, Doc.
And Bubba Wallace, who made a mistake at Talladega, making sure he doesn't make a mistake here. Left side tires going on. He's already changed the right side. Elliott Sadler, the race leader, is already pulling away, as is Kyle Busch, who wanted 2 tires and a bag of ice.
And here comes the next wave off turn 4. A lot of boiling tire smoke, but everybody's clean. Vince?
The 7 car of Regan Smith is in. Remember, we told you just a moment ago, a little too tight in the front end, so they're making that air pressure adjustment. Right side tires and Sunoco fuel. Let's go to Doc.
Chassis adjustment, right rear for Chase Elliott. 4 tires getting it completely full of Sunoco fuel. They're in their window now to make it on 1 more stop. Right side tires only. Waited on fuel, only right side for Elliott.
You see top of the screen, Brendan Gaughan now the leader. Tire rolling away from Joe Nemechek's team there. They retrieve it and get it back out of harm's way. And the 3rd wave to the pit lane. Joey Logano, Mike Wallace, David Reagan, Derek Cope, and more. Mike?
Joey Logano has been complaining the car's been getting a little bit loose in the corner. Expect them to make some adjustments to try to correct that situation. Team going to work quickly on the right side of that car. Sunoco race fuel in, an air pressure adjustment being made, a full load of Sunoco race fuel, and just right side tires. Doc.
About Chad Vogt, a second-generation driver. Yes, his dad was Billy Vogt, the Indy 500 pole sitter and former IndyCar winner. Young man showing a lot of promise. 4 tires, left side tires going on. And there's David Reagan also in for his pit stop. David Reagan, 4 tires down and away.
So right now on the track, Richard Childress Racing's drivers, Brendan Gaughan, Ty Dillon, and Brian Scott run 1, 2, and 3. Casey Kane on the pit lane, separated from everybody else in the draft here, Mike.
Yeah, and that may hurt him on the way out. We'll have to pay close attention to that. Team going to work on the left side of that car first. 2-tire change for Casey Kane, trying to get that second can of Sunoco race fuel in there. Waiting on the fuel a little bit. Hasn't gone away yet, and now he's finally away. 13.8 seconds.
Penalty for Joe Nemechek for that rolled tire. He just came back through the pit lane. Now the Richard Childress Racing guys come to the pit road, and Joey Logano will be coming back in that 22, speeding on the pit lane.
Well, that's a shame because they had a really good pit stop. The fuel exchange was about the best I saw on that round of pit stops. Vince?
Pit road pit stops for the 62 of Brendan Gaughan on the left side. Remember, Gaughan said the car had been pretty good, but they wanted to make an adjustment to help him in the corner. Also, pit stops, the 3 of Ty Dillon. 4-tire change for Dillon. Likes his car, came with his teammate, Sunoco Fuel. Mike?
Brian Scott on pit road right now has been complaining the car's been a little bit tight on exit and losing the nose a bit. Completing their service, he's away.
So that's going to cycle everybody through the pit lane one time, and when this field puts itself back together, it should be Kyle Busch who's going to be in the lead of this race. Here's the pass-through penalty for Joey Logano for speeding. Remember, it was this car that was dominant last Friday night at Kentucky, till a speeding penalty for Brad Keselowski left him chasing from behind to try and catch up. So, at 40 laps, or 100 miles in to the Subway Firecracker 250 at Daytona, powered by Coca-Cola. Don't forget NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy has enhanced coverage for you tonight from here at Daytona International Speedway. There's the new leader, Kyle Busch, in the 54. Leaderboard changing rapidly here at Daytona. There's the breakaway 6 cars in the lead. And note that it is not Elliott Sadler in the 11 who's behind Kyle Busch, 54, the race leader. Sadler just on and off pit road a second time under the green in that 11 car. Doc?
Elliott Sadler came back in. He felt a vibration and said they thought maybe he had a loose wheel. Apparently they came in and changed all 4 tires, and now they're seeing one wheel that may have been just a little bit loose in there. Now they've checked an air gun and said it may have been a spring inside the air gun that failed and didn't allow the last lug nuts to go on. So that may have been the issue with Elliott Sadler and cost him an unscheduled stop.
Doc, thanks. Sadler back in 27th. 42 seconds behind the race leader. After his pit stop for the pass-through penalty, Joey Logano in 26th place, 33 seconds behind the race leader. Both on the lead lap. Sadler barely.
Yeah, he's only 5 seconds ahead of this lead pack and losing ground quickly.
There's the view out the back bumper. Now, if you're a fan of Sadler, we'll offer this as a form of encouragement, because in the last few years, 2 of the winners here have been involved in an early incident or had an early problem, came back to take home the trophy.
Yeah, he doesn't have a scratch on the car. I remember Kurt Busch in 2012. I mean, basically demolished that thing. They rebuilt it. He started in the back and came all the way up to take the win. Now here come the leaders with a big head of steam. Ooh, well, this is Kyle Busch trying to help his teammate stay on the lead lap.
Yeah.
It's going to cost him the lead, though.
At the very least, what he can do is keep him up there to where he's the first car a lap down if we should have that caution, and he can get the wave around. And then this is one of those places with Elliott's experience, he can drive his way back up to the front and be a factor in this race before it's over.
So Kyle Busch going to go from first back to 6th in trying to pick up Elliott Sadler and keep him in that pack. And for more on what happened to Sadler's car, we listen to this.
That free was loose, man. Good call in there. Be all right here. We got a long ways to go. Not halfway yet.
I would imagine that's a little comforting to the driver to know, yeah, I suspected it, I was right, versus the, sorry, we didn't find anything wrong here.
Yeah, that's a little bit, but you're still a little ticked off that it happened. It could have been a parts failure as far as the air gun or something like that that didn't allow it to get tight, but it's mistakes that you can't make. Racing for a championship in particular.
The air wrenches are pretty reliable, but they can break and they can, cause a problem, not get the wheels tight. But most of the time, it's just taking not quite enough time to hit every lug nut.
So now, after that round of green flag pit stops, you see some cars that are being lapped now mixing in and among the lead lap cars here. And Darrell Wallace getting kind of shut out as Chris Buescher looked to find a way into line to stay up with these front runners.
I'm not sure if Darrell Wallace was just trying to go back maybe and help his teammates, but he does get shuffled out.
So Kyle Larson is the new leader. And Regan Smith, February winner, finds himself up in second place. 26 cars on the lead lap. Joey Logano, the last of them. Yet to see the yellow flag in this one thus far at Daytona. It's Kyle Larson, already a two-time winner this season, who's on top for now. A variety of things have just happened, the result of which is the first yellow flag of the Subway Firecracker 250 here at Daytona International Speedway, just as the race gets to its midway point. So three things going on. First of all, Kyle Larson got shuffled from the lead. Regan Smith is now in the number one spot. Then the yellow flag came out for debris on the track in turn 2 while the leaders were racing into turn 3, and this happened to Darrell Wallace Jr. in the 20. Look at the left front damage on that car and watch what caused it.
It's like there's a little stack up in front of him, and he just gets out of shape. You see, that's what caused the damage coming down off the apron. I mean, down off the banking to the apron, and it's knocked the splitter up in the air pretty good.
Yeah, he just wasn't expecting that. He was in the gas hard, and as these cars slowed right in front of him, went to turn right, then the car got extremely loose with him. And this will be an issue they'll have to address here under this caution.
Wow, a lot of sparks, too.
Great save.
Yeah, it was.
Great save.
Watch the caution light there.
Hello, yellow's out, debris, turn 2, check up, wave it off, wave it off.
I'm not sure if those cars hadn't already checked up in front of him.
Gather it up, you're fine, you're fine.
So pit road open, and the leaders are coming in. Here they are, Vince.
Well, it took a while for the pressures to come up for Regan Smith, but he liked it once they did. It's going to be a fuel-only stop for the 7. Let's go to Mike.
Chad Norris telling Trevor Bayne to take the cue from the leaders. If they come down pit road, come with them. That's what they did. Fuel only on the 6. Meanwhile, the 5 taking right side tires and packing that car as full of fuel as possible, Doc.
Fuel only for Chase Elliott in the 9 cars. He just squeezes around the 54 of Kyle Busch, and that'll put Chase Elliott about 2 laps shy of making it the rest of the way on fuel.
And all of them squeezing around Dakota Armstrong, the pole sitter who was just getting to that number 1 pit stall trying to leave. A little close call there.
Yeah, that wasn't the only one. There was a couple of times that caused a problem down at the end of pit road.
Watch this as Armstrong comes to his pit.
Then these cars are coming out. You see, up to Kyle Busch just barely misses Armstrong. And then as Armstrong comes out, then there's another stack up. Wow, that was close.
Daytona Beach doesn't normally have severe rush hour traffic, except a couple of times a year. And maybe a couple times in an evening, like just now. Aerial coverage tonight from Daytona, provided by Goodyear. Everything they learned making tires for the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what rolls into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. A look at the city of Daytona Beach. Rockets red glare. The fireworks celebration over the Main Street Pier tonight on the world's most famous beach. And just a few miles to the west inland, across the Halifax River, The bright lights of Daytona International Speedway, where the NASCAR Nationwide Series is under caution. The race just past its midway point tonight, delayed some 90 minutes by rain, but running now on a dry track, and a new leader, Chad Boat, out in front by virtue of not having pitted under this yellow flag. Our ESPN in-race reporter Regan Smith had taken the lead just before the yellow, and he's the first car off the pit lane, finds himself in second spot right now.
Hey, Regan, Dale Jarrett, good to talk?
Hey, DJ.
Well, we've seen you in a familiar place here, back up front, but we also saw you trying that outside line earlier on. Didn't seem to work that good. Does that concern you for later on tonight?
Maybe just a little bit. You know, there's a lot of cars that tried it, and it didn't seem like any situation was really working. So, yeah, we'll see. Once things tighten up at the end of the race, guys start maybe beating a little harder, getting a little more aggressive. Sometimes that outside line comes in. So, you know, I like where we're at right now. We'll just try and keep it up here instead. Is
the track pretty much what you expected in the handling of your car?
Yes and no. Our car's actually tighter than what I anticipated it being tonight, so just losing the nose some more off the corner than what I thought we might. Probably just a little bit higher temperatures and all that.
All right, thanks for talking. We'll let you concentrate on saving that fuel we hear.
4.
Yeah, you heard that too?
45 laps to go. They're right there. But, of course, here at Daytona, in the NASCAR Nationwide Series race, particularly in this July NASCAR Nationwide Series race, you have to plan on maybe doing a little extra racing at the end of the night. Because you see that late in the race, we get a lot of caution flags, and we've had a lot of overtime racing here in this particular race as well. Like 8 of the last 9 years, we've had a green-white checker finish, and some extra time, to use a phrase that's been popular on these networks in the last couple of weeks.
So when I said earlier we were asking when you could finally relax, I should have used the checkered flag and not lap 101, really.
Yes.
We go beyond that most of the time.
Yeah, I got the extra time thing too.
Right.
Referring to the World Cup.
Yes.
Some people going to top off the fuel here. Chad Boat going to give up the lead to take fuel, but Brendan Gaughan is in. Brian Scott, Joey Logano, who was just in front of the race leader when the caution came out and about to be put a lap down, topping off the fuel.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot to lose as far as track position, so he can get a little extra gas and maybe a little bit of insurance. And Darrell Wallace, I think they've been working on this car, so he gave up track position to do that, so he's going to go ahead and top off.
Be his third pit stop, I believe, under this yellow flag on that 20 car to get that splitter repaired.
Well, the good thing for him, he'll have teammate Elliott Sadler back there, plus the 22. Sadler did get the free pass there to get back on the lead lap.
So as we get set to go, Sadler, as you mentioned, with the free pass, is going to be back about 27th in line. Joey Logano and some of these guys just in front of him. There'll be some people taking a wave around to get back on the lead lap, and Regan Smith winds up not only with the race lead in the outside lane for the restart that he's chosen, but still worrying about that fuel.
All right, Regan, we need, we're real close on our fuel here, so you got everything you got here, okay, bud? Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So the question is, what Ryan Pemberton is planning to as far as laps are concerned. Lap 100, the scheduled distance, or lap 101, 3, 5, 7.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for him to save fuel. He's the leader, and I'm sure he wants to stay there, so it's going to be hard to save fuel under green. That's why he's doing all he can under caution.
And you might wonder why, after asking him about that outside and it not doing well, that's his teammate that's on the inside. So I'm sure they have it worked out, which would allow Regan to take off since he's the leader and get down in front, and they'll hook up his teammates back on the bottom of the racetrack.
Those cars catching up to the end of the field, wave-arounds that got back on the lead lap. Joe Nemechek, Eric McClure, Mike Wallace, and Scott Lagasse in the 29. So we have 31 cars on the lead lap, 43 laps to go at Daytona.
See Regan Smith there, make sure that he waited until he crossed the start-finish line to make that move down in front of his teammate. That's a veteran driver understanding all the rules, that even though he was the leader, he couldn't change lanes until he was past the start-finish line. They worked that to perfection.
Saw David Reagan lose a chance to win the Daytona 500 in 2011 by making that lane change too soon. Got penalized for it.
Again, we see that bottom lane really has the advantage.
Well, we have a second to see Kyle Busch there in third. I have to say, that was being a great teammate there. When Elliott Sadler was being overtaken, he gave up the lead to help Elliott be able to stay up in that group, get the free pass, knowing that Elliott's racing for a championship here. He also knew that he would have the chance to get back there, but that's being a really good teammate to these guys.
So Regan Smith leading with his junior motorsports teammate Chase Elliott in the 9 car right behind him, though not necessarily with all the tools that he would like to run to the finish.
Before you said you did not have first gear, correct? Yeah, I couldn't get it into first there for the restart.
All right, well, that could be a factor on the last pit stop if there's another pit stop for Chase Elliott in that 9.
That's the biggest thing about first gear.
Whoa.
See the 31 there. I don't know if he got a little bit of tap, but certainly going down the back straightaway was a little bit squirrely. Dylan Kwasniewski done a great job here tonight. He drove himself from 26th up inside the top 10, up to 7th, I believe, at one point.
Have the top 10 finish after starting on pole in the season opener here at Daytona. Has had a rough season since then in learning the ins and outs of the NASCAR Nationwide Series. But a young man with a lot of potential. You saw his story earlier. Some of the adversity that he's overcome to get to this point in his career, and looking to make the second half of his season better than the first in his rookie campaign on this circuit. Just past 10 o'clock in the east, just across the 150 miles of the Subway Firecracker 250 Daytona International Speedway. NASCAR Nationwide Series racing on the 4th of July here at the World Center of Racing. Just the one caution in the race so far. The race started 90 minutes late due to some rain showers that came through. Some of the bigger stories on the night: 11 Elliott Sadler, an extra pit stop after leading the most laps in this race for a loose wheel just after pitting under green, and 22 Joey Logano with a pit road speeding penalty on a green flag stop. Those two drivers trying to rally from the back. Well, the man who won this race back in February, Regan Smith, has risen to the front of the pack and is in command of this field. Just one car. Mike Harmon just lane. Race.
See Joe Logano and Elliott Sadler trying to make something happen to get up front. That's one thing about this. Wow, they're getting some pretty tight spots, but it seems like it's tougher now to come from the back and get to the front with the rules that they have in place and the aerodynamic packages they have.
There. Mike Wallace 93, David Reagan 98.
Again, with these cars being so equal and not being able to latch onto the bumper and push for any time at all. It's not a length of time, it's that you can't do it. It makes this more difficult. You really have to stay committed and work hard and work together. You're almost better off sitting in that inside lane, letting some others get impatient and taking your time and making your way up there.
Mike Bliss has just coasted down the pit lane and made the hard left turn into the garage. Lap leaders tonight: Elliott Sadler for 28 of the 62. Then Regan Smith, Trevor Bayne, Kyle Busch, and Kyle Larson have all led a pretty similar number of laps. Sadler by far dominant as far as leading this one, but now with some ground to make up to try and get back to the front.
Yeah, and Elliott's trying to make that outside work, and the best thing that he could do, if he could drive up and pick up 3 or 4 spots and find him a hole down on the inside, work that for a minute until he feels comfortable. He's got a nice run that someone could come up from behind him once again and give him a push. Make it where you're getting 2 or 3 at a time and not try to drive your way all the way to the front, because you're eventually just going to lose everything that you gained.
Trevor Bayne in the 6, leading that outside lane with Dakota Armstrong in the 43 behind him. Those two drivers shared the front row for tonight's race. Now trying to make it back to the front
Yeah, Dakota Armstrong's done a nice job. We expect this out of Trevor Bayne to be up there and racing and doing smart things. Dakota Armstrong, we didn't know what he may do from that situation. We've seen him be put in this situation now, and he's really done an outstanding job tonight.
Armstrong, the 22-year-old from Newcastle, Indiana, driving for Richard Petty Motorsports. He too has had what could best be described as a difficult first half of his rookie NASCAR Nationwide Series season. Hoping to begin a better second half of the campaign tonight here on the sport's biggest stage, Daytona International Speedway. The great tradition of racing at Daytona International Speedway on the 4th of July and on Independence Weekend continuing tonight with the NASCAR Nationwide Series running the Subway Firecracker 250, a race that's had some pretty intense racing and just one intense moment. Darrell Wallace Jr. getting turned around when the first caution came out earlier and continuing on after some repairs in the race. For the lead, Kyle Busch jumping up to the outside of Regan Smith as we get down to the final 31 laps of this one here at Daytona.
Trevor Bayne and Dakota Armstrong have done a great job working that outside lane and gotten their way all the way up to just about where Kyle Busch was, and he saw that they were making some headway, so I think he wanted to get in on the party.
It was impressive to watch Dakota Armstrong doing it without, he was basically bump drafting, but Trevor wasn't getting too far away because they continued to do it. You could do it 2 or 3 times down the straightaway, but they weren't locked on at any point in time. So that was an excellent job of them driving their way up there. Kyle Busch trying to take advantage of those cars.
One of the great things we see from these onboard shots that maybe to the eye from above wouldn't show you how much these cars move around in the air in the draft at these speeds and with all that bump drafting going on as Kyle Busch gets a nudge ahead of Regan Smith to lead that lap.
For Regan Smith, you see he's using that inside side draft to hold that momentum off from Kyle Busch. It was a good job to hold that.
See, now he's getting a little push, a little bump from his teammate. Chase Elliott getting up to get to the back bumper a little bit. You know, we talked about years ago just how good Trevor Bayne was at this type of racing and adapting to the different styles over the years as it's changed.
It's no surprise you see Regan Smith and Trevor Bayne up in the lead 4 cars. They're so good at this style.
It was Trevor that basically pushed Regan to the win here back in February.
It was to the outside of turn 3 on the final lap. That 3-wide charge. Brendan Gaughan was leading it. The black car with the blue top. Now David Reagan has jumped up in front of Gaughan to try and see if they can go anywhere 3-wide.
Yeah, another driver that knows how to get the job done here, taking advantage, understands the draft, got himself in position 3 wide for about 6 rows here.
It's almost like they've learned something since the beginning of the race on how to use these new rules to move forward in these lines.
And Elliott Sadler now back in the mix in that group, trying to pick his way back toward the front. Sadler up to 11th in the 11.
So right in front of him, a driver that we talk about every time we come to these tracks, Mike Wallace gets the job done. Doesn't matter what kind of equipment he's in, he knows how to make it work.
93 car, 4th one in the outside lane. There's Mike, 3rd all-time in starts in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Former winner here at Daytona. As up front, Kyle Busch poking a fender out in front of Regan Smith again.
It's Ty Dillon down on the inside in that 3 car. Having a nice, strong run here tonight.
Regan Smith led that lap.
Because of the difficulty of making these passes work, this thing is starting to ramp up earlier than kind of I anticipated. You usually see it within the last 10 or 12 laps, but here we are with 27 to go, and I'm seeing a lot of bumping, a lot of things happening that could create some excitement here before too long.
Well, it's so difficult to move forward. I mean, you still have, Joey Logano is still 25th after starting at the tail end of the lead lap. He can't seem to make his way to the front. It's very difficult to pass.
Leaders catching some lap cars. This is a hold your breath moment here. 4 car is now Matt DiBenedetto in for Jeffrey Earnhardt, who has that broken collarbone, being overtaken by the leaders there. And the 17 Tanner Berryhill also nicely yielding way to the front runners.
Yeah, pretty much made everybody get too wide, though. That took away the 3-wide racing that we saw as they had to negotiate those lap cars.
So 29 cars in a second and a half of racetrack.
You won't see that anywhere else but a restrictor plate racetrack. Almost impossible.
Well, you might see it at the start. On the pace laps.
You almost have to be touchy.
Something like that. It's probably a pretty good preview of what the finish is going to be like when they come to the checkers.
You can see that outside line. They could get there. They just can't seem to get what it takes and make it all work to get the lead. And, you know, Kyle Busch, he would have let that outside line hanging if he could get just enough to clear Regan Smith and get to the bottom.
Now, he's certainly getting the help from Trevor Bayne. And Trevor Bayne's one of the best at doing that, figuring out how to help help his car and another car. I've always said he's one of the best pushers. Back when they had the tandem racing, he was one of the best pushers we ever saw.
The mix of experience in this front group and knowing what to do to try and help himself or his teammate win the race when it comes right down to the end of it. Like Chase Elliott in that 9 car running on the inside of row 2.
Let me know if they warn anyone, please. I will.
Has no warnings been on NASCAR channel. No warnings yet.
I think what they're trying to figure out just how much of this right here they can do when they do the bumping and how long can they touch and sometimes they know they're not touching, but sometimes it's hard to see if they are, and they're worried about getting in trouble, getting a penalty.
And what they're doing right there, that's going to be legal all night long. As long as they're just bumping and separating, it's just a matter of any length of time of locking onto that bumper. But that almost takes both of them to do that.
Joey Gase, Carlos Contreras giving way to leaders, but you saw maybe just an ever so slightest bobble there from Kyle Busch through some of that traffic. Quickly, though, pulling back up to the outside of Chase Elliott, but Regan Smith has separated himself from Kyle for the moment.
I'm thinking the 43 might have been running a little hot. He looked like he had
You and the 9 are both clear.
to get out of that for a minute. And I'm thinking he might have looked down at his gauges and had to get out.
Yeah, he might not be the only one, as close as they've been running here lately.
Averaging 168 miles an hour so far. Just the 1 yellow flag tonight at Daytona. By tweeting or posting your personal salute using the hashtag NASCAR Salutes, or visit NASCAR.com for more information. I love the line in the announcement for their promotional campaign for that about saluting the stars that protect the stripes. Wonderful thing on this Independence Day. Hope you're enjoying it wherever you are. We're in Daytona Beach, Florida, watching tonight's Subway Firecracker 250 build to a very tense point. Inside the final 50 miles of this one, the pack tightening up, people changing strategies as we go. Now a line forming on the outside after Kyle Busch, who is racing alongside Regan Smith for the lead, lost his drafting partners in Trevor Bayne and Dakota Armstrong, picks up Joey Logano, Elliott Sadler, and Brian Scott in the 2 jumps out in front of them, and they try to see if they can make this outside lane work that's been so difficult for people to go forward in for much of this race so far.
I think Kyle Dillon's going to have a decision to make here in a minute, whether he jumps up in the outside lane with Brian Scott, his teammate, or hangs where he is. He's in a good spot right now.
Oh, well, you're single file. I was saving the whole time about 3/4 to half throttle. Now I'm back to 3/4 throttle and half. Or like this, like I'm saving the whole time. Side by side there the whole time I was manning. So you can do your calculations. So I'm far to 3/4.
That's great information because they're so close to being able to make it on this tank of fuel. And he's giving them that information for their calculation to see how much margin they'll have, if they have any.
You saw those leaders overtaking the 93 of Mike Wallace. Mike on the pit lane under the green flag a moment ago from 7th place for fuel on that machine.
Yeah, he was one of those drivers that had taken the wave around to get back on the lead lap, and so he didn't have the benefit of getting on the pit road that last time.
So we've heard some radio transmissions between some of the race teams about fuel to the finish. Let's check down on the pit lane, see what some of the teams are saying as we get closer and closer to that checkered flag. Vince?
Start with the leader, Regan Smith, and they had told Regan initially that he needed to save, which is very difficult to do from the front, but because of that previous yellow and the length of it, they have since come to Regan and said, we are good to the finish. So far, so good for Regan Smith. You'd like to hear that, Doc.
And back behind him, Greg Ives has told Chase Elliott, he said when he made the last pit stop, we are good to the checkered flag, but we're right on the number. And Chase said, I can save some fuel. Chase told his crew chief a moment ago, sitting here behind the 7, I'm running 70 to 80% throttle, and that's all. I'm saving fuel every lap until we need it. Vince.
And the 3-car of Ty Dillon, it's interesting when they told him any fuel you can save us is going to help us later, and Ty came back on the radio and he said, I don't know how. I guess I could run half throttle in the draft. He later came back and said he was running about 3/4 throttle, thought he was being able to save them some fuel there in that 3rd position. Alan?
Vince, thanks. That outside line headed by Brian Scott, trying to draw even with 4th place Kyle Larson in the 42.
Well, it's tough going out there. They're trying to make some ground.
Yeah, and one of the things that's helping this outside line are those guys trying to save some fuel on the inside that aren't staying tucked right up. They might be running 3/4 throttle, but they're not up there pushing, so they're not running the faster lap times. These guys on the outside, I promise you, are wide open.
And I have to think that Regan Smith is too. He's the leader. I can't think he's able to save any fuel. And you would think that the teammate cars would get close to the same mileage. So that makes me feel better about Chase Elliott's chances of making it to the end, and maybe a little iffy on the 7 of Regan Smith.
Don't know what happened down the backstretch that sent Brendan Gaughan scoring out of line in that 62.
Keep your fuel and mileage in mind, please.
He was 3 wide for a minute, and now he's going to run up on a roadblock here.
I'm not getting you much.
Some lap cars in front as you hear Regan Smith's team on the radio about the fuel.
You can't let up. I mean, he's the leader. And I think these cars in the outside lane are using a little more fuel too, because they haven't been able to let up at all. They're trying to just desperately gain an inch at a time to get to the front.
They all got through there. I think you and I were both holding our breath watching some of those guys that were 3 wide run up on the lap cars. Now here they go 3 wide again. And again, it's Brendan Gaughan popping out to the outside, trying to find a way to go forward. Knows the laps are running out.
Now look at a couple of these cars. The 22 and the 2 came back in and topped off on the 1 to go. So they have 2 laps more, or actually less laps to run on their fuel tank than the other cars, even though they were caution laps. It's actually 3 laps of caution.
Just the 1 caution so far tonight. The record for fewest cautions in a nationwide series race here at Daytona is 3. That's been done 5 different times.
If we have one more, we won't set a record because
there'll be more and more.
Yes.
And especially as difficult as it is to pass and complete a pass, they're going to take more chances.
They're going to have to. It's just that the pushing, the bumping's going to have to get a little bit harder. Those guys on the inside know now, as we get down, going to get down inside of 10 laps, they're going to have to tighten things up. They're going to have to be more diligent with their drafting techniques and things they're doing to help that line not get overtaken on the outside.
Trevor Bayne was running up behind Kyle Busch, trying to push into the front earlier. Now you see that 6 car mired well back in traffic. As we run at record pace thus far.
Wow. If that was Kyle Busch that was out of control or out of shape there, but somebody's made a nice save.
25 miles to go. Watch the 54.
Looks like he got in the back of Logano, had to check up just a little bit. That is a good save, and to save his spot.
I think it scared everybody behind him. So there was still a hole there to get back in.
"26 cars on the lead lap, all in that lead pack." Will any of them have to peel off and go to pit road for fuel? That can get a little dicey.
Well, what will get dicey if one of them runs out of fuel up towards the front, because that's going to stack them up, and you know what can happen after that.
As close as this is, and as tight as everything is, you can't get out of the way fast enough.
If you're a Regan Smith fan, just remember, we're only stating the facts.
A glass half empty guy. I'll tell you tonight the way it's working out, but I really like my chances out front.
Yeah, and I said earlier on that, when you have a fast car, you have options. You can, depending on where you want to be. When you have a car that you feel like that you can block with out front, then that's where you want to be. Make them find a way to go around you. There's a lot of things that you can do from the lead that you can't do from second, third, fourth, or fifth down the inside.
Team owner of the first and second place cars. Casey Kane in the 5 is running 14th.
Which is not far from the front, but it is 14th.
Kyle Larson running 4th in the 42.
Derek, I'm not sure about the cars in front. Two of them stay really close on the fuel. May not make it. We start seeing them burp or anything, just try to move around. Right now we're in the right line. They're starting to get antsy out the back.
The point we were making a minute ago.
Ty Dillon's done a great job. He's sitting right there in third. He had an opportunity at one time to jump up in front of Brian Scott, his teammate, when it looked.
Oh, there it comes. Brendan gone. Turned around.
Hang on.
How that was a single car incident, I'll never know.
It was just by chance. And he spun right through the middle of it.
Well, Brendan, the winner at Road America 2 races ago, had a great finish at Kentucky last week. Was trying to make up some ground here at Daytona.
Fuel here. 4 tires, at least 1 can of fuel in.
And you can see there's a lot of damage on that 62 car.
You see Brendan gone right here on the outside, right behind Trevor Bain.
Like he turned down. That was not sure that he knew that car was there.
Like Darrell Wallace.
Plenty of Darrell Wallace. Didn't look like Darrell Wallace had done any moving on his part.
Quarter here, keep rolling. Got no help on the bottom.
From that angle, looked like maybe.
Down. Yellow's out. Yellow.
That's just a combination of right front and left rear coming together.
Look at the car here. Look.
I'm like Alan, how did this not be a bigger crash?
It's great driving back through there.
Look at Eric McClure. Just get his car stopped. Nice job.
Okay, this caution is going to help people save fuel. It's also an opportunity for some to come in if they think they can't make it. It's so difficult to come from the back. I think if I had any chance at all, I'd stay out of making it.
I think you got to now. That's kind of the strategy that you put yourself in. We see how important track position is. I mean, you can't pass.
It's also an opportunity for more cautions, like
and
we were
more
talking
laps.
about a minute ago.
Well, you got more laps, but then again, you got the opportunity to save some more fuel. So how much of that can you do?
Greg Ives, crew chief for Chase Elliott.
Just wonder about the that transmission issue with the 9 car of Chase Elliott. We know that he said he didn't have first gear there. Has any problems crept up if that's coming from inside the transmission? Might they have an issue on this restart?
That's what I would worry about. If it's a shifter problem, it's no big deal. But if it's something inside the transmission, I'd be worried about it. How worried are they, Doc?
Not very, actually, but they just a moment ago, as DJ mentioned it, at the same time, Greg Ives asked Chase Elliott about the transmission, and Chase said, remember, Chase, all our teammates are going to restart in second gear, so you shouldn't need first gear. Are there any other issues? He said, no, I just tried to get it in first gear on pit road a little bit ago, and it wouldn't go, but I've had no other problems. I'm just going to start in second and hope nothing else happens, but right now, no other issues at all for Chase.
Good to hear. He's done a great job out there all night. Been very patient, learning. You can see the progression with him from here in Daytona, where he ran in the top 10 back in February, but got shuffled back. I believe he finished 15th, and then ran pretty solidly at Talladega, but ended up outside the top 15 that time.
Pit road open here. Survey says,
I think if you're going to have a chance to win, I don't think you can come down pit road. And for the cars, some of the cars at the back end of the lead lap, maybe get some insurance in case we do go into overtime.
Johnny Sauter, first taker from 9th position. Just the second yellow flag in the Subway Firecracker 250. Trouble off turn 4. Brendan Gaughan and Darrell Wallace Jr. Subway Firecracker 250 at Daytona, powered by Coca-Cola, down to its final 3 laps. Don't forget NASCAR.com has all your latest NASCAR information. Going to go green with 3 laps to go, and the car in 3rd position, which happens to be numbered 3, maybe a little shy on fuel.
Says we're out.
Feed that box. Just keep feeding that box. There's no way we're out. Just make sure you run the flat. Just make sure you run the flat. Keep feeding that box.
Telling you, gauge has nothing.
You up on the banking?
On the flat, man.
Keep whipping it back and forth. Keep whipping it back and forth.
Okay, the fuel pickup's in the right rear corner of the fuel cell, and there's a box over there that basically, when he's talking about feeding the box, is filling that box where the pickup is with the fuel that's sloshing in the tank.
The problem is it could stumble on this restart. What he needs to do really is be able to mash the gas here and make sure that he's got plenty of fuel there, but you don't want to use up all your fuel because obviously he's getting down close to being out.
Yeah, he could stack it up on the restart.
Free pass to Mike Wallace. 26 cars on the lead lap. Brendan Gaughan lost a lap getting repairs on pit road. Here we go. A trophy at Daytona at stake. Who's going to get it?
Yeah, Chase Elliott, just his car's dumping.
Was that transmission? No, the car's spinning around in the stack-up. Elliott Sadler's in the grass. David Reagan's in the grass. And the caution is right back out.
I think Chase Elliott ran out of fuel. Just like we talked about, that's where, you know, if it's really close and you don't run the flat like you saw Ty Dillon, then you have a chance of not having that fuel line full of fuel and it's got air in it and it stumbles.
Well, David Reagan and Elliott Sadler get the worst of this.
That's going to get worse, too, because we got more laps that are going to run. They're going to go into overtime. More cars are going to be running out.
It's coming back up now.
They just never went.
Slow it down. Yellow's out. Watch your outside. Okay. You don't have much damage. You go to your pit stall right there. Go to your pit stall.
Hearing that engine rev up generally means the rear wheels are off the ground.
That's exactly right. Yep. Hard to make them go in the right direction, but they were all jamming up behind. Elliott actually got into the 54 to start with, and then things ensued from that point.
Well, the old accordion effect from the guy on the inside of row 1.
We're talking about the guy in the 3 car, and it might be the problem that was car in front of him.
Yeah. But certainly not giving us any more confidence that this next attempt at the restart is going to be a smooth one.
No. Just think of the championship implications that this has right there. The two that came in first and second in the points, having problems right there.
Well, they are going to resort the order. Pit road will be open here, and then we'll get ready for a little extra time tonight here at Daytona, which gives us an extra moment to check down in the pit studio.
This is what we've been talking about all day, setting yourself up to be there at the end. How do you do it?
You got to have patience, number one, and obviously we got to have enough fuel. I tell you, one guy I've been really looking at is Ty Elliott, or Ty Dillon. We talked about him early in the broadcast about he needed to have a good run and really get up going again to get back up on those points and possibly get a good win. I'll tell you guys, he's impressed me all night long. I know he's got a fuel concern, but the kid's been looking good out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of fuel concerns, but Reagan Smith, once again, has put himself in position to have an opportunity to win this race. It seems like every time we go to a restrictor plate race, this young man puts himself in a great position at the end of the race, and he's doing it again.
I personally am impressed with Ryan Reed. In third.
An outstanding job.
Outstanding job. This is a track that he struggled early on in the season, qualified up front, and he's following through right now. And then, of course, Kyle Larson now in second.
Yeah.
You know, just the turnaround that he's had from one year to the next.
David Starr in sixth position. A good run for David Starr, so a lot going on.
Kyle Busch coming down pit road, Alan.
Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, David Reagan, Elliott Sadler will come down pit road. Just a splash of fuel or more, Doc?
For Kyle Busch, it'll be fuel. They're going to check the fenders, and they knew they were going to be really, really close and maybe not quite make it. And because everybody else was having fuel, they were having concerns. Now, Chase Elliott said on the restart, his words were out of gas. And then when he switched it back and forth, it picked back up. Apparently, that box end he was talking about, there was no fuel in it, so they decided to come on in now and put tires on it and fill it full of fuel. Just not enough fuel for the restart, but once the car got wiggling back and forth, it picked up. The 11 car, Elliott Sadler's in. Sadler had fuel, but he thinks that maybe the splitter may have gotten pushed down on the front end. They wanted to come back and check the splitter, check the front end, change some tires, and top it off with fuel.
This might be a good move for some of these cars, because if we happen to get another stack up on a restart, then all these other cars are going to be, they're already close on fuel. So some of these other cars are going to run out.
Well, Regan Smith choosing the outside lane for the restart. And getting ready to see if he can hold off this pack of hungry drivers, Vince.
Well, there's a lot of conversation between Regan and his spotter, TJ Majors, about which position he should take on the restart, inside or outside. TJ told Regan, hey, that 22 is awfully fast. So that's why they chose to go on the outside with the 22 behind him. The pit crew ready for a splash of fuel if needed. They are right on the number, and a lot of nervous faces down here in this 7 pit box, guys.
I'll be shocked if we don't see at least 1 or 2 cars run out of fuel in this restart.
So look at this. You got all these guys trying to save fuel, coast, shut it off, try not to run over the pace car while you're trying to do that coasting. Doubled up for the restart. Green-white checker finish coming again at Daytona. Kyle Larson to the inside of Regan Smith. They've waved off the restart because the guys are all out of line and out of order on the restart. That's going to cost them even more fuel. And this could really get chaotic.
Yeah, the only one that can feel pretty good up there is Joey Logano, who has more fuel than the rest of them.
He has a little bit more. He has 3 laps of caution more fuel than the cars that pitted at lap 53.
So the more you can save me, the better.
Remember, Logano had a pit road speeding penalty earlier, so it put him in position to be able to stop and top off when some others did not. That's that 3 laps difference you see right there.
That's 3 laps of caution, too, now. That's not using a lot of fuel for the other car.
And I will have to say, I'm curious about choosing the outside line. I know the 22 is fast, but I think that if I were Regan Smith, I would have liked the inside only for a green-white checker that you're looking at here. I like the chances on the inside. We'll see how this works out.
Some people to point out. Remember, we talked about the Daytona and Talladega surprises and how some of the underdog teams can get out and have strong runs because of the great equalization of the draft. David Starr, 44 car, running in 6th position, and he too topped off the fuel at lap 56.
Doing a great job, just stayed out of trouble. They've been up in the mix all night there, but not up in the front. But now, because of these things happening, got himself in a position.
So we'll try this restart again. And remember the rules. Get the green flag, race around to the white flag. If they get to the white and the caution has not come out, then the next flag ends the race, be it the checkered flag or a caution flag.
I think they're going to have a hard time getting to the green flag. That's what I think.
Look at the guys all down on the apron trying to save fuel, while Regan Smith, the leader, still up on the banks.
Any problems on that restart?
start, man. Just trying to get up at the fence there out of the way. Get lucky here, maybe. If that happens, we can get back on pit road, get some gas in it, get a yellow there, and get a shot at it. Just do your best.
Sounds like Junior's confidence not real high on the fuel.
Involved in this close championship play. You can lose a whole lot of points here.
That's why I think Chase Elliott, even though he had the problem that brought the caution down, he's in a pretty good position.
Pace car's off. Let's see how it plays out. There'll be 2 laps to go at Daytona. Kyle Larson, 42. Regan Smith, 7. Joey Logano, Ryan Reed doing the bumpers.
Yeah, Ryan Reed's doing all he can to push Larson out front of this group. Not locked on. He was just bumping right there.
3 wide lane headed by Johnny Sauter in the 80. Oh, Star up to the wall. Everybody gets through. Here they come to the white flag. Do they have enough fuel to get back? Final lap of Daytona is underway.
On you tight. Yeah, 22's closer.
Joey Logano getting a run on Regan Smith. Here comes Casey Kane in the 5. Ryan Sieg in that 39 car up through the middle. Jeremy Clements into the picture. All going on behind Regan Smith. Can he hang on? Will the fuel last to the finish line? Here they come to the checkers. Casey Kane on the outside lane. 3 wide to the win at Daytona. Wow, what a finish.
That was incredible. How did he do that?
Unbelievable, the move that he made right there.
Good driving, too.
He restarted 7th for the green-white checker. He made a move up through the middle, down the backstretch, and came around 3 wide to the outside to the finish line to take home a Daytona trophy.
I just didn't really think that he had enough momentum out there. I thought when I saw him down the backstretch, he might have a chance, but then he didn't have any real help after that.
Watch this. In February, Regan Smith won by 13 1/1000ths of a second. Casey Kane just won by 20 thousandths of a second.
I believe that's Ryan Sieg that's pushing him across the line there. What a great job he did. He ran great here back in February. I believe finished 9th.
Yep.
I don't even think Casey Kane knew who it was that was pushing him. But Sieg did such a good job. I mean, that was just incredible how they did that.
What a job by young Ryan Sieg. Finished 2nd at Daytona in his 2nd try here in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. The 27-year-old from Tucker, Georgia.
He's going to have a chance for the Dash for Cash, $100,000 next week.
Yeah, she gets a little bump to Casey Kane right there. Kyle Larson was trying to make a run.
See, I thought he lost too much momentum right there.
Yes. Regan Smith was just too far out there, had nothing going on, and nobody helping him whatsoever. Look at Ryan Reed doing a great job there. I believe to finish 4th in this race.
Wow.
Just unbelievable. That's just where you're going where they're not, and you're fortunate to have somebody pushing you. Casey Kane got himself in a position with a great move down the back straightaway.
Well, if you're going to drive a race where you only lead 1 lap all night,
hey, might as well pick the best one. That's the last one.
I'm telling you. That's how it was for Casey Kane tonight. He's in victory lane at Daytona. His last win in the NASCAR Nationwide Series was in August of 2007. And here on July 4th, 2014, he's going to celebrate in victory lane at Daytona. Before the race, they said they was just about to win. They've won tonight.
Raising Kane emerging from the car, a victor, and you said before the race, all that mattered was bringing home that trophy. You did it. Take me through that move that won the race.
Well, yeah, the guys, everybody at Junior Motorsports brought a great car, and I could not. Everything I did tonight was wrong, and then I'd look in my mirror and be like, go, and then I'd decide not to, and it'd be the right move. So I just didn't really do a whole lot right with our Hellman Chevrolet, but at the end, I had a huge push from 39 Sieg and just felt really good. The car had speed all night. I was in the wrong spot all night and was able to get by Regan there, and I think Larson was on the bottom. So it was just had tons of momentum there coming off turn 4 and a fast car.
It was so close. Did you even know that you did win the race?
I knew I did, but you know, before a little bit before the line, I was unsure, and then the last push, the last time Ryan hit me, you know, it really boosted me past the 7, so I felt good about it at that point. But overall, just a great night. Thanks, great clips, Hellman's, Napa, Junior Motorsports, all the guys.
I got to tell you, I was in your pit and I saw the big fist bump by Ernie Cope. I mean, that team was jacked up. What's it mean to you to win here at Daytona?
Well, it means a lot. They've put a ton into this, and Ernie's a great guy, a great crew chief, won a lot of races with Kevin and some of the other guys he's worked with, and so it feels good to win. These guys have won, I think, 5 times already this year, so it's nice to get one. The Hendrick engine was awesome, like always, and you know, thanks to the whole team. But it was a fun race. I just could not get up there, and once we did, we were fast enough.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Among the celebrants down here, Alan, as you might imagine, team owner Dale Earnhardt Jr. Junior Motorsports completing the Daytona sweep this year.
And in fine style. Mike, as you look at some of these numbers, 2 of the 3 closest ever finishes in the NASCAR Nationwide Series here at Daytona this year's races. We talked a minute ago about Regan Smith winning by 13 thousandths of a second in February, and Casey Kane 21 thousandths of a second here tonight. Regan Smith missed the Daytona season sweep by that much, Vince.
Boy, a tough one to take. Junior Motorsports 1-2 tonight, but Regan Smith, who led the most laps, almost got it at the end. What was the difference when Casey went 3 wide?
I don't know. You know, I watched the replay and I blocked the 42's move. I think if I go up any higher, we'll probably all wreck right there. And I don't know how to do it different. I'll have to study the tape and see where I messed up coming off before. I had a pretty good sized gap, but at that point you can't crack the throttle or drag the brake because they're just going to really swarm you bad. So I lost just enough momentum that it didn't quite work out. But needless to say, I was a teammate over there, so that's kind of cool that Casey got the win. He pushed me to him at Talladega last year, so it's good to see him get one. Junior Motorsports still got a 1-2. Goodies powders on the car tonight, and I know after 4th of July celebrations, a lot of people are going to need Goodies fast relief in the morning and powders before they go to bed. So disappointed, but you know, part of getting out of here is just getting out of here with points and not having anything stupid happen. And you know, we're in the Nationwide Dash for Cash, Nationwide Insurance Dash for Cash, so that's cool. I don't think we got to do any of those races last year, so not too bad.
Second place tonight for Regan Smith, and he leaves here as the points leader, Alan.
Now top 4 finishing championship eligible drivers in this race tonight that get to race for that $100,000 bonus next week at New Hampshire. Look at that group. How cool is that?
Yeah, Jeremy Clemens gets a chance to run for $100,000.
That's incredible. Yeah, they did a fantastic job. Yeah.
Highest finishing of those 4 drivers next Saturday at New Hampshire Motor Speedway gets that $100,000 cash bonus. What a finish at Daytona. Place never seems to disappoint. Didn't again tonight. 4th of July fireworks happened on the track. It set off a big team celebration on the pit box.
Be right there, baby. Sorry.
Pampers. Unlike ordinary diapers with 2 layers, Pampers have 3 absorbent layers to stay up to 3 times drier. So babies can sleep soundly all night. Wishing you love, sleep, and play. Pampers. And for outstanding leak protection while potty training, try Pampers Easy Ups.
KFC presents Eat Like a Fan. You go to great lengths to never miss it's a game. You support your team and want a sub that does the same.
Soccer fans unite with KFC's filler subs. 9-inch subs packed with hand-breaded seasoned chicken in internationally inspired flavors like cheddar tomato, buffalo ranch, and chicken marinara. One of Canada's best tasting sandwiches. KFC, so good.
Nothing and everything. That's what's different about the 2014 Toyota Corolla. You still get Corolla's legendary reliability, but now with bold new styling inside and out, you get a Corolla that's everything you expected and a few things you didn't. The 2014 Corolla. It's Corolla like you've never seen it before. Right now, you can experience one for yourself during the Toyota 2014 factory event.
From across Canada, on the winds of change, stories are being gathered that will shape our future. In this special place, people from every generation will learn about human rights. Become engaged and be inspired. Visit the Canadian Museum for Human Rights.
Daytona tonight, another great race, adding to what's been a very exciting NASCAR Nationwide Series season 2014. There are the tracks we go to in the upcoming weeks. And what a great variety. New Hampshire, Chicago, the Brickyard, and on to Iowa, the Watkins Glen and Mid-Ohio road courses. Join us at the track, NASCAR.com/tickets or the number at the bottom of your screen. A lot of different winners this season, a lot of great racing. And we expect that to continue as we go across the summer months. This great championship fight changes hands tonight. Regan Smith back in the point lead. Elliott Sadler dropped down to second after his late race misfortune. Doc?
With Elliott Sadler getting a drink of water. Elliott, tough night here. Take us through the issues.
Yeah, we just had a loose left rear wheel, and that's a shame. Kyle and I worked so great together all night and 1 and 2 and could really set the pace and make it hard on everybody else. And we just shot ourselves in the foot, so we can't do this many more times. And proud of my guys. We had a great pit crew. We just a little hiccup tonight. Just, Sport Clip's way of us fast, but on the tracks that we run the best at, we got to get the most points, and we weren't able to do that tonight. So we've dug ourselves a hole, and we got to regroup and come back in New Hampshire.
Missed opportunity for Elliott Sadler.
Doc, thanks. Sadler winds up finishing in 21st position. Take a look at how they did come to the checkered flag, because it sure changed a lot in that last lap.
It sure did. And how they didn't crash, I don't know, just a testament of how good these drivers are.
How about Darrell Wallace Jr.? He gets in a crash, gets the car fixed, and Jeremy Clement with a great finish, and Mike Wallace, top 10.
A look at the next 10 is where you will find Chase Elliott. Wound up after that bobble on the second to last restart. And they running dry on fuel a bit, falling all the way down to the 20th position. Said it before, say it again. Place never seems to disappoint.
No, it really doesn't. It's just incredible, and you can see just how much it means to these drivers for the will that they put into this and trying to get to victory lane. Casey Kane, great job.
And nothing's more fun than winning a close one. You can see how much energy the team had after that checkered flag.
A spectacular night here at Daytona on Independence Day. A 3-wide finish, and Casey Kane comes from 7th to 1st to score the win and go to victory lane. New Hampshire next Saturday, 3 Eastern on ESPN2. World Cup tonight is next. So long from Daytona.